What's up, guys? Zach here from Merricks Garage with another episode of the Beginner Build Series. Today is a big day. We're going to be putting in the 4-inch lift kit from Offroad Design. We have BDS springs and Bilstein, however you want to say it, shocks. It's about 20 degrees outside, if you can't see my breath. We got a couple of heaters going here, so with that, it's probably 21 degrees in the garage, nice and warm. I got some help here today. My buddy is in town from Texas. He's going to be helping out. His name is Kirk, and he's had a little bit of wrenching experience. There's Kirk. So he'll be helping out a little bit. We'll be working on this together. So if it should be a little bit easier with two people, at the very least a little more fun. So let's go ahead and get started. So just to look at what we've got so far here, we took out the leaf springs, disconnected the brake lines and bled those out, and then also took out the shocks. From here, taking out that back, that pin that was in the back bushing, or through the back bushing for the shackle mount, there was, the exhaust is in the way, so we did have to cut that. Kirk cut that. Cut that bolt off, and then we're just going to come in from the other side when we put in the new one, so we don't have to worry about taking off the exhaust or the headers or anything like that. Yeah, anything else?
Not at the moment.
Yeah.
We're just going to start putting everything back together.
Yeah.
It's easy taking it apart.
Sure is. Yeah, easy, relatively. So it's going pretty well. We'll give you some updates as we're installing everything in. All right, so what we're doing now, we have the new shackle bushings here from Offroad Design. We're replacing the rear part of the front leaf springs, the back shackles. So these, you can see, I'll just give you a quick look. The comparison between the GM ones and what Offroad Design gives you. So obviously pretty significantly stronger and thicker. Will hold up a lot better. And those are all rusted. I will say the bushings that came, actually let's look at those, that came off of it, were in surprisingly decent shape. You know, a lot of times you see these in trucks that are 40 plus years old, they're totally cracked, just falling out. That indicates these probably were replaced at some point, at least, you know, probably when my uncle had it, probably in the 90s. So they're not in too bad a shape, which has made this go a little smoother. I'll say that with my fingers crossed, but say that's been going a little bit smoother. Getting even the leaf springs out, everything has come out relatively easy. All right, so just to give you context, we are under the passenger side with these rear mounts, the rear leaf spring mounts. This bolt, when it comes out, is hitting the header coming out from the exhaust here. So we can either take out the exhaust or just cut this bolt, because we got new ones from Offroad Design. So you can see I've started to cut into it already, but just a little shortcut that's saving us a little bit of time here. All right, here we are, day 2. Yesterday, didn't record a ton of videos. Was honestly figuring out a lot of what we were doing with things. It is currently snowing pretty hard outside. We got a few inches of snow sitting on the ground, so it's colder in here than it was yesterday. But we're excited. Gonna get started here. Gonna give you a quick walk around of what we've got done so far, and also what we're looking at in terms of next steps. So what we've done yesterday, just to give you a quick review of what we're at so far. We got all the stock leaves off, stock shackles off the back here on the front, replaced them with the Offroad Design heavy duty ones. We also got the shocks out and disconnected brake lines, of course. And then we actually ran into something with the front diff vent tube. When we were dropping the axle, that was getting taut, so we disconnected that. Just got to remember to reconnect it. So today what we have planned is, well, I mean, really completing everything, but just give you an update on what that looks like. This shock, the mount up here, when we're going in, it has a little space. And so to keep that from banging around back and forth, the original shocks had this tube. So we just pulled this out of the original shocks and we're gonna reuse that with these new shocks. Just to keep that from moving around, so that'll be nice. So we have both springs, shocks, and U-bolts in, but let me tell you how we got here. So when we first started lining up the springs with the axle, well, they weren't lining up. The center pin that goes through here was not lining up with the receiving hole in the axle. I thought maybe it was a bent frame, something like that. Really what had happened is we just tightened down the shackles a little too much. And so that it was just tweaked, kind of twisted into place. So we loosened those up, we're able to get those in place. As we were tightening down these U-bolts, that center pin that I mentioned was not really fitting in the hole that was down there. I filed down that pin just a hair. It's literally like a few hundredths of an inch that it was maybe a little too big. We were thinking about filing down even more, but what we ended up doing is just cranking down the U-bolts, the nuts on there, and that actually met it. So it just, you know, squeezed into place. So, yeah, next step here is we're going to cut off the rest of this U-bolt so we can tighten these and torque these down to spec. You know, these are sent in a little long because, well, first of all, this long one is a little bit wider actually in the back to fit around the transfer case. Differential. Oh, sorry, yeah, the differential. And then these, actually Kirk pointed out that it's probably you have a little extra link in case you want to put some blocks in there or if you have, you know, a really thick leaf pack. So we're cutting those off and then torquing things down to spec. So here we are on the driver's side with both sides. What we've done now, we've got the shocks installed. We've got the U-bolts installed as well and the tops cut off so that we're able to get the torque wrench on here and torque these down to spec. I've looked up Offroad Design, has torque specs on their website, on their instructions sheet. So we're gonna go ahead and get on that. Oh, also we bled and replaced the brake lines. I actually blinked and Kirk already had these installed. So he made it look real easy, even though I know it wasn't. Bleeding them, one issue we ran into is the bleeder hose was clogged with dirt. I think there's supposed to be a rubber cap on top of that to protect it. It did not, so it was just filled and caked with dirt. We cleaned it out as best as we could, but the brake fluid just ended up coming down the sides of the calipers. We put a bucket down there to catch it, but still we were able to see the brake fluid that was coming out and make sure that it was coming out clean and not bubbly or, you know, gurgling or anything like that. So brake lines are replaced and bleeded. Now it's just torquing down and putting some wheels back on, and we'll see how this looks with just the front lift on.
3 things that you can do to help out Merricks Garage. First, go to my website. Second, go to my Amazon store. Third, click like and subscribe. My website has all my merch, stickers, consulting, and all the products from the roll cage to the light bar to the seat brackets. Also, my Amazon store will have a full list of products I use, recommendations, things I like, and anything you purchase on Amazon, I get a little kickback for, which helps me just keep producing content for you guys. And finally, click like and subscribe and drop me a comment down below. Believe it or not, YouTube pays attention to that, and it makes me feel really good about myself.
Here we go. She is on all fours. The front is fully lifted. We torqued down everything to spec. Then got some paint on some of those bolts and nuts so we can see. I can check back, you know, a few hundred miles, or basically as I'm driving it. Keep checking on it regularly, make sure that none of those are loosened up. But we're halfway there. I mean, I'd love to say that we're 3/4 of the way there, because we gained a lot of knowledge, learned a lot of things as we were doing this. So hopefully the back goes a little bit quicker. Fingers crossed. But yeah, things are going pretty smoothly here. Moving on to the back here, starting with the U-bolts. We got it jacked up on the frame with the 2 jack stands, tires underneath for safety, of course. And we got a couple of jacks just lifting the back axle, floor jacks, just to take some tension off of the leaf and make this a little bit easier. So we're gonna start with these U-bolts. All right, so as you can tell, these U-bolts come out pretty easily. They don't take any heavy machinery or cranking or even elbow grease. They come out pretty nicely. No, if you can get one of these big ass Milwaukee impact drills, they're not cheap, but it makes a huge difference. But even when that ran into some issues, or basically just couldn't crank enough, the breaker bar, that helped out, and you'd be surprised how much more leverage you can put on it, a little more torque, I guess. But all right, off to a good start. Got our shop inspector, shop manager here, everything up to sniff here, up to par for you.
Up to pause.
Looking good, all right, good news. Well, our success and the pace, I guess, of our project came to a halt. We were feeling real good in here, taking everything off, got all the shocks and leaf springs off real fast, had some music bumping, we were really enjoying ourselves. And then we ran into the brake lines. So where the brake lines connect in the back on the rear diff, they wouldn't come loose. One of them is pretty mangled, and it was on there really good. So we were trying hard to get it off. So that, long term, I'm going to maybe take it to a brake shop and see if they can. I might just replace all the rear brake lines, we'll see. But I think for now, we're gonna move forward with putting everything on there. It looks like, let me flip it around here. It looks like we have plenty of room. So this is the brake line that's going to be replaced with a longer one from Offroad Design. This is the one that's stripped. We can't get this. This connects to the driver's side drum brake. So we can see all the extra room that still has. We have it lifted to the axle, basically where it's going to be sitting when I'm driving. So I think we're safe to put the lift kit on, but obviously don't want to be driving, don't want to go over any speed bumps or anything like that and have that brake line get ripped. So it's going to need to get fixed, but in the interest of time, and considering I only have Kirk here for another day or so, 2 days working on this, I want to make sure we get the springs and the shocks in, and yeah, so then we'll be working on that tomorrow. This is the end of day 3. Another issue that we've run into, or something that we're seeing and maybe need to call Offroad Design, this rear shock mount that post is a little bit fatter than what the inner, like, I guess, than what this is, than here in the top of the shock. That's the bottom, but still. It is just not able to fit over there. Even with, you take one out, it will fit on there like that, and it looks like it's just gonna be on a smooth surface, so that's not a problem. But on the bottom, they still don't fit with the existing hardware that we got. So, at least with the I don't know, sleeve in there, the bushing sleeve, whatever you might call it, it won't fit in there. So I'm gonna call Offroad Design. I don't want to run the bottom side without one of those because when you go through, there's still some thread rubbing on the bushing, so you definitely don't want that. So I'm gonna call Offroad Design tomorrow, see what they recommend. But that is the end of day 3. Day 4 in the garage here. We woke up this morning and the house was 48 degrees. The heater, I guess the gas went out last night. So it was pretty cold in the house and we thought, hey, it's probably warmer in the garage. Let's go ahead and get to work. So I forgot to record a video before we got started. But what we've got done so far is, well, first we went to Ace Hardware to get some new hardware for these shock mounts. Let me just show you what kind of problem solvers we are. So the original bolts, I went through it yesterday, but the original bolts that are in here were too fat for the shock bushing. So we got bolts that fit in there and have a long enough shoulder to where, sorry, I'm breathing hard, to where it can go through here without any bushings sitting, or any part of the bushing sitting on threads. So you can see the threads sticking out here. We might cut some of that off, but the bushing ends, or the shoulder of that bolt ends are right around here. So it's safely in there without any rub. So we got those in. Getting these 2 washers and spacers in there were nice and fun. But in other news, the brake lines are reattached. This is at full droop, and you can see it's not even pulled tight. Obviously, at some point, I mean, very soon, I'm gonna get the new one in. I told you about that stripped bolt issue that we had yesterday. Another thing we ran into that's obviously very minor, but something just to note as you're putting in a lift kit. This breather hose from the rear diff, when it comes up, basically that clamp was a little further up on the hose, which was pulling it tight. So we just loosened that, pulled it down a little bit, and even that, you know, is not very taut at all. It's still got a little bit of room, and again, we are at full droop. So, I'm not gonna say things are moving along smoothly here because I said that yesterday and we ran into some issues. So it's going terribly and we're gonna keep at it. So you remember how I said I didn't want to talk about how things were going? We got the leaf spring in, went in real nicely. Took a little bit of finagling, but we got it. And then we realized this e-brake cable probably needs to go on top of the leaf spring. So we are detaching the leaf springs right now. Gonna put that over top and do it again. After thinking about it more, and after calling Offroad Design, which by the way, I mean, I got all this stuff from Offroad Design, but being able to call in and have an expert that has seen thousands of these and works on these all the time is invaluable. It's been super helpful. We've called them probably like 5 or 6 times. They may be getting annoyed with me, but they've been happy to help. Yeah, Tony at Offroad Design has been amazing for us. So called him about our e-brake line issue. And he said, well, first of all, we are at pretty much full droop, or pretty close to it. And there's still some movement, and it's not like taut here. So it's better to be under than to have it on top and it get pulled the other way, because if it's on top and we go to full compression, then it's gonna get just ripped out. All right, so we are down to the last nuts and bolts. So we got just torquing everything down to spec, using Offroad Design's torque specs that they have online. So torquing these back U-bolts down to 100 foot-pounds, and then every shackle and shock, they all have different torque specs for them. So gonna make sure we do those all to spec. And then something that's really handy is just a paint pen, you know, marking on the nuts and bolts so you can see, you can check, while you're driving it, down the road, be able to tell if it's loosening up at all. But yeah, we are at the finish line here. Pretty excited to see it on all fours lifted, with tiny little feet. It's got 29-inch tires right now, so that'll be my next purchase. Probably gonna do some BF Goodrich 35-inch tires, but that's gonna be down the road. I still have to do steering as well, but don't want to get ahead of myself. Gonna get started on this torquing, and we'll see you at the end. Still recording on me?
Yeah, I was just gonna wait for a click.
Oh, you want to get a nice click in here, huh? We might have ways to go. Alright. Oh, yeah.
There's another. There she goes.
Yeah.
Don't say one more. There she goes.
Well, it is a few days since we torqued down the last lug nut on the lift kit, or I guess on the wheel, but finishing up the lift kit project. The reason we didn't do a quick walk around video or show that wrap up after we finished the project is we had dinner that night. We had to run out the door. I think we finished at like 4:50. We had to run out the door at 5:15 to make it to a dinner and then a concert that night. So we didn't have a chance to really even look at it too much after we finished. But some of the things that we learned between the front and the back and just overall, first of all, the biggest one was stay organized. When we were doing the front, we just kept losing track of what size sockets fit onto what nuts. And so we would do the U-bolts on one side and then start doing shackles, taking the shackles out, like when we're deconstructing everything. And then we get to the other side and we completely forget everything, every size that we used. And there's wrenches and sockets laying around everywhere. So we have to basically start over the process of figuring out what fits where. And when we moved to the back, we did U-bolts on the left side, the driver's side, and then took the same stuff, moved over to the passenger side, did U-bolts there. Just did all of that so we had those same exact sizes. Made it so much simpler. We also did a lot better with putting things away. So we knew, if we needed to get a new wrench, it was where wrenches belong in the toolbox. That's something that I learned at Merricks Garage, working there this summer. But it's one of those things you kind of have to learn the hard way to actually be disciplined about, because it does take discipline. So after finishing the front, Kirk and I looked at each other, we're like, we have to do it the right way. We have to stay more organized. And that made things go a lot faster in the back. Next thing, lighting. This may seem obvious for some of you. I don't have great lighting in here. You can see this is with every light I have on. And there's not much, you can't see see very well once you get under the truck. Headlamps were really helpful, but we also went to Harbor Freight and just got a new light that I have sitting up here right now. But that, you can just slide it around, put it wherever you want. We didn't have great lighting for the front. In the back, again, it went a lot smoother just because of that change. And staging your projects. So along with lighting, have all of your parts that you're gonna put into your truck ready and next to where they're gonna go. So we put leaf springs, for the driver's side, we put the leaf springs right next to the tire. We put the other leaf springs under the passenger side tires. And just having a plan before you start just jacking up the truck. On the front, we ended up having to move the jack stands a bunch of times. We had to move the floor jacks a few times. Just because we didn't have a plan going into it, we kind of just jumped right in, which is great. But If you can plan it out, even those small details, that makes it go a lot faster. The last thing that I personally learned is, and that I think would be helpful for everyone else, is get you a buddy like Kirk. Kirk drove from Texas up to Colorado, a 12-hour drive, did it in one day, spent the week here working with me on just the promise that we would go snowboarding and I would give him a few meals in return. I know, not everyone's going to have someone that comes with a floor jack and jack stands and all kinds of tools like Kirk did, driving up with his truck. But even if you just have a friend that knows nothing about trucks, nothing about working on trucks, it can make the process not only a lot faster, but much more enjoyable. We were hanging out here, playing music, joking around, laughing, having a great time. It just made the process that much better and so much more fun. And every time now I look at this truck, I don't just see my love for this truck, but I see all the memories and the fun that Kirk and I had in here in this garage for the 4 days that we were working on it together. Every time I see this lift kit, I'm gonna think back to this time that we had hanging out, drinking beers and working on the truck together, having fun. So it's more than just a truck, and it's more than just a project. It's a fun memory that I have with one of my best friends. So when I set out on this project, back when I was talking to James last summer, in my head, I was planning I would be doing this all by myself, just a one-man job, which is great, and that you can get a lot done that way. But I've learned over the past couple of months, even having my fiance help out with some of the lighting issues that we were working on together, and her dad, and Mario, my friend from Santa Barbara, came in town and helped me with some of the lighting issues as well. So it's get help where you can find it, and also enjoy that time that you're hanging out with someone that you love and that you're working on something together. That's something I've learned that's been really impactful. I want to thank Offroad Design. Their products and their customer service are top notch. I've probably called Offroad Design, Kirk and I did 6 or 7 times throughout this project. And most of the time it was dumb questions. Tony, specifically at Offroad Design, was happy to help every time. Provided step-by-step walkthrough of how to fix the problem that I was running into, or how to get past the problem I was running into. So along with the customer service, the products are just the highest quality. All of the hardware, the U-bolts and everything that came from Offroad Design, you can tell is high quality. If you're putting a lift in your truck, you'll do yourself a disservice if you go anywhere else. So to wrap this up, thank you all, first of all, for watching. This has been a really enjoyable project, and I really love that, or I hope that some of you can see that through the video. I hope that comes through. We really had a good time doing this, and obviously the outcome is really exciting for me. Please comment down below, like and subscribe, of course. But comment on things that you saw. If you have questions about issues that we ran into, or if you want to call me out for using the wrong words when I'm describing something, I do that a lot because I don't know all of the terminology and the lingo around these things yet. I'm learning those as I go. So feel free to call me out for those. But I'll jump in the comments, reply to any questions that you all have. But for now, it's back to more projects on the Blazer. I'll see you later.